I think that the biggest thing that I have to recognize in this situation was that while you were the drinker, I was the enabler.
Mm.
And that was never a phrase that I was comfortable with when it was happening. I think that's pretty understandable that most people probably are like, no, I'm not the enabler. I'm the bystander. And so having to reconcile with that and realize that there were things that I could work on, and there were pieces where I had to step up to such a degree that I had a hard time backing off.
This is the More Than Capable podcast. Life applies pressure in predictable places, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. More Than Capable exists for those who choose to prepare. No hacks, no shortcuts, no posturing. Just discipline, faith, and practices that help you stand when life presses down. Welcome. I am glad you are here. Well, I'm actually going to have you kick this one off.
Oh boy.
Because you've been extremely supportive of the podcast thus far. You have also been the one who has been rightly critical of it. And I feel like time and time again, you say the biggest feedback I'm getting from you is you need to introduce your guests before the episode starts because I don't know who they are.
Yeah, you tend to jump right into the story. So
Yes,
I think an introduction is warranted. Everyone wants to know who is Kyle talking to this week?
So give me an example of what
Boy.
good looks like for that.
Oh boy. Hello folks. This week we are talking to my wife and best friend, Alyssa's. She has been with me through my various stages in life. And she is my wife, the mother of my children, and my number one supporter through this process. Today, we are talking on the subject of Chapter 8 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And with that, Kyle, what do you have to say?
That was good. All right.
See?
All right.
You listen to a few podcasts, you get some ideas.
Yeah. Okay. I have a good gold standard.
Do you want to give your intro? That was just mine. I don't know if it's any good.
No, we won't do that. But like you said, we're actually going to go into the big book. Or what's called the big book, but is actually just titled Alcoholics Anonymous. So, for a little bit maybe of history and context for folks that might be new to this More Than Capable podcast, back in February of 24 was the first time I actually started sitting down and recording. And my intention was essentially to do 3 to 5 episodes where I walked through the Alcoholics Anonymous book. What? Look at me. Look at me like we're having a conversation because we are having a conversation.
I don't know if you want to talk to the
No, you don't. That's like breaking the plane.
I'm breaking rules.
Yes.
Okay,
go on. Just look at me. Okay,
I'm not even facing you. What is?
I know I'm not facing you either because of this table.
What do I do with my hands?
All right. So anyway, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is actually where I kind of started recording, and I would do a reading from it, and then overlay my experience as far as my struggles and battles with alcoholism and then recovery went. And, that 3 to 5 episode plan kind of grew into a ton more episodes until I finally wrapped that up and decided to step into More Than Capable. That being said, there have been 2 chapters in particular that I feel like really got left on the table with regards to having really incredible content and power in them that I hadn't covered yet. And I've always had it in my mind that I wanted to at some point go back, because this is like, there's power in this because of one, how old it is. Like, it's written in a different time. It was written in 1939. And even though that is the case, like the overlay and the power that you get in reading such an old piece of work and then looking at your own story and experience it's very humbling. Mm-hmm. And it does showcase, it is powerful because of how it draws out these sort of struggles and experiences that we've all had, whether it is today in 2026 or back in the mid to end of the 1930s when Alcoholics Anonymous was first stood up.
Yeah, man, we're nearing in on 100 years since
Yeah.
this book has been written.
Yeah.
And truly, in reading through the chapter, which I had read through pieces of it before, it was almost startling how the way that it is written can apply to any decade of American history, beyond whatever.
Yep.
And so I thought that was really interesting. And we forgot to mention in my intro, I just was thinking of this, why this is the subject this week. What is this week for you, Kyle?
We were originally going to sit down and record this on our 3-year sobriety milestone.
Yeah.
And time slipped away from us on that day. We can talk about it. We had honestly what felt like the most, it truly was just another day. But that day, 14th of May was, I don't know about you, but it was like so fulfilling and so special. And it was jam-packed. It was jam-packed to the point that you and I couldn't even find the time to sit down and record this.
I was talking to your mom the next day and was like, I barely saw Kyle yesterday.
Yeah.
Like truly we were together for like a good portion of the day. We were on the same property, but we were just like doing different things almost the entire day. And so it was just but it's kind of a crazy busy day. And I mean, that right there is something we'll probably get into in this subject here today, is just an example of how our lives have changed in the last 3 years.
Exactly.
So we kind of joke that like, woo, sobriety for both of us. But I mean, obviously Thursday is a day that we really celebrate you.
Yeah.
And so that was a big deal. And 3 can seem like a really short, small number, or it can seem like a lifetime ago from what we experienced. So,
and it's definitely both at the same time.
For sure.
That's something I at least talked about on that day, but I think you echoed as well. It's like such a flash of time, but also like a lifetime ago, truly. So yeah, before getting into the chapter 8, one thing I want to say, so you had called out just the power of reading something that is written such a long time ago and just how different scenarios still apply to you. One thing I want to highlight with regards to the big book, the way it was written, the time period it was written, and the added power of it, that also applies like between genders too. So like you'll read stories in here. I will read stories in here that are written by a woman from the female perspective, and the through line of it is still, oh my God, I lived her experience. Or she has lived my experience. It's like she's writing my story out. And so even though this chapter is titled To Wives, it's titled To Wives because literally at the time this book was written, there were like less than 100 members in AA. There were 2 meetings at the time that this chapter was written, and there were literally no AA members who were women. It was a different time. Shortly after this book published, women started coming in to AA, and there was a revelation and realization that you can't constrain this just to males. This is not a male-only problem. And so I want to highlight that because I do know that a number of people follow this body of work that have loved ones who are struggling. And so even though this is titled To Wives, even though this is written from a perspective of a wife of an alcoholic, this applies whether it's your brother, sister, cousin, parent, anything like that. If you have a loved one that is struggling with any kind of addiction, there's going to be power in this chapter. And one other thing before getting into the chapter, this is publicly available. So if people have any interest in reading this in its entirety, because we're only going to hit little snapshots of it, simply Google chapter 8 big book or chapter 8 Alcoholics Anonymous, and you'll find it. There's a PDF first thing that'll pop up.
It's not a long read either.
It's not, and you kind of surprised me because I highlighted, I didn't know how much time we were going to have to get ready for this. And so I just kind of highlighted bits that I wanted to read. And like just very quickly later, I saw you had a notebook. You're sitting here like
I'm
way
ready.
prepared.
I'm
I'm
ready
a
for
little
this.
bit intimidated by you. Now I'm wondering
Oh,
if
you
I'm
shouldn't be. It's mostly just like me rewriting what's already in the book because I knew that you would have the book and
Mhm.
I wouldn't. And so I learned, or I do best by following along. So I wrote it down for myself. Now, can
right.
I read my handwriting? That's another question.
I can't read your handwriting. I was trying to look at your notes and I'm like, I'm just going to hear this first
Yeah.
time when we sit down and
Yeah.
talk.
Well, some people think I have really pretty handwriting.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right.
you can have your own opinion.
With that, let's get to the book. So, chapter 8, Two Wives. I'm going to read like a short passage from it. And then what we'll do is I'll come out of it and let's just talk about kind of what that passage speaks to you, what it makes you feel, what experiences that we have that we can kind of overlay to it. Because that's really the power in this is when you can start making that connection and not just read it for the sake of words on a page.
Sure.
So, to the book. As wives of Alcoholics Anonymous, we would like you to feel that we understand as perhaps few can. We want to analyze mistakes we have made. We want to leave you with the feeling that no situation is too difficult and no unhappiness too great to be overcome. We have traveled a rocky road. There is no mistake about that. We have had long rendezvous with hurt pride, frustration, self-pity, misunderstanding, and fear. These are not pleasant companions. We have been driven to maudlin sympathy, to bitter resentment. Some of us veered from extreme to extreme, ever hoping that one day our loved ones would be themselves once more. Our loyalty and the desire that our husbands hold up their heads and be like other men have begotten all sort of predicaments. We have told innumerable lies to protect our pride and our husbands' reputations. We have prayed, we have begged, we have been patient. We seldom had friends at our homes, never knowing how or when the men of the house would appear. We could make few social engagements. We came to live almost alone. When we were invited out, our husbands sneaked so many drinks that they spoiled the occasion. If, on the other hand, they took nothing, their self-pity made them killjoys. So I'll come out of the book right now, and even just in reading it right now, that is like hard thinking back to the way that things were. So what?
And truly, such a representation of exactly what our life looked like.
Right. Yeah.
Especially, 3.5 years ago, let's say.
Yep.
It was almost like hard to read and hard to remember that it even was that because it so does not match our reality at this point. So I kind of went slow through that. I just had to pause occasionally and just contemplate exactly what I remember from those times. And it's a lot of the memories, and sadly I have a very strong memory, and so unfortunately I do have like a lot of details that I do remember, but a lot of things I squash, I turn off at this point because they're painful. One, I underlined something as you were just reading there, and it was that we came to live almost alone. And I mean, I think that was the isolation piece of it was a huge piece of where life took us. To the point where our very closest friends that we had here, which were few and far between, partially because we lived in a new city and partially because we just couldn't engage with people the way that we would normally have. Our closest friends had seemingly no idea what was going on until literally the night before you hit your rock bottom, let's say, in which my dear friend was like, I was with her and we were out to dinner and she could tell something was wrong, and she completely selflessly said, forget our plans for tonight. You take care of your family. And it's so wild. It's just kind of crazy to think about. We don't need to toil there. Your question being, how have things changed in the last couple of years?
Yeah.
Well, so much life has happened in the last couple of years. We have grown new friendships. We've been able to rekindle some of the old. We have been able to do things differently in our careers and maybe step up more in our careers. Enrich our children's lives. I think that's really a big one. And part of that is just the age. And part of that is our ability to actually have free time and have time to take on new things. And then a big piece of this was learning to trust you again and being able to rely on you. And I have a great example, and that is that I was having a hard day yesterday, and I was able to see you at the end of the day. You had been out hunting for the day. And when you got home, there was like this sense of peace that came over me. And that is not something that I had 3 years ago. And it has taken a long time to regrow that peace. And truly, I was thinking about it this morning. It was like, I cannot even imagine being in the place that we were in 3 years ago, or like what our lives would have looked like had you not made the decision that you did at that time. And truly that peace that came over me was just like overwhelming and amazing. So thank you. Thank you for that. And to change it to a little bit of a point of humor, I'm able to make sourdough bread now, which is truly like a 3-day process. So it is quite a task to do, and we are on a timer right now. So just be aware, we'll have to try to kind of maneuver this around my schedule.
that is something that I think does come later in the chapter, but it's worth pulling up and talking about right now, is just how you had to sacrifice so much of yourself and your life. And there's a specific portion of this first part that really stood out to me, especially with you, because it certainly is a strong trait of yours, is with regards to loyalty. And it's that bit is, our loyalty and the desire that our husbands hold up their heads and be like other men have begotten all sort of predicament. And I know I've asked you before, but I was talking to one of the guys I was out with this past weekend, and he asked, so I'm going to pose it back. Why did you stay?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we did address this some in chapter 3, stigma. I mean, what'd you tell him? Let me put it back on you. What did you say? What was your answer?
And the glimpses of what could be.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, just actually the line that is just prior to that in the book, ever hoping that one day our loved ones would be themselves once more. I think that was a big reason that I stayed. I knew who you were, and I knew who I fell in love with, and that person wasn't gone. That person was entangled in, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Entangled in just like a really difficult place. And I wanted so desperately for you to be able to untangle yourselves or remove those shackles. And I mean, it's amazing to know where you are now and that you were capable of that. And I don't know. There's no words.
And I think that's a really powerful visual too, and it definitely aligns with what I felt, entangled or ensnared, and just feeling like this, authentic person that you were is just like totally bound up, and like you can lash against it, you can strain against it, but you cannot break free. I was thinking about it just before you said that, in terms of being like having your authentic self suppressed, but it's more than that. And like ensnaring is really like the right way of thinking about it. And it's funny, I was, while we were before bedtime here, rest time, we were wrestling, both of the boys. We were just wrestling and like giggling on the ground, and it's hard to think back to this, but I had moments like that when our oldest was young, and moments where I would be totally goofy, making up songs, like dancing, wrestling, making him laugh. And in those moments, I would have the thought of, you don't deserve this. And it's indescribable to someone who hasn't been there and fought those thoughts, to be able to have that experience that we just had, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, and to genuinely feel like, this is right. You deserve this.
Did I catch you like pausing during that playtime and having that
Just
internal
like a
moment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I caught that.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
I loved that you're able to do that in the moment and experience all of that, and to be able to do it with, both of our sons is amazing. I love listening to the giggling and the fun, the laughter that's in our house. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but I used to say, like, when we would have our, long sit down conversations and try to, figure out trying to do my best to help you through what was going on. I remember saying things like that to you. Like, I want a house that's filled with laughter. I want to, have these positive memories. And so it's been really special to witness that now happening in our house.
I agree. And that's actually a good transition to the next part. So we'll go back to the book. How could men who love their wives and children be so unthinking, so callous, so cruel? There could be no love in such persons, we thought. And just as we were being convinced of their heartlessness, they would surprise us with fresh resolves and new attentions. For a while, they would be their old sweet selves, only to dash the new structure of affection to pieces once more. Asked why they commenced to drink again, they would reply with some silly excuse, or none. It was so baffling, so heartbreaking. Could we have been so mistaken in the men we married? When drinking, they were strangers. Sometimes they were so inaccessible that it seemed as though a great wall had been built around them. Feel like the life we lived?
Yes, definitely. Well, it's again, what's kind of funny here as you're reading this, you like highlighted the first part of the section, and then I, in turn, kept reading and was like, well, this part I feel like hits home even more. So I'll read from the book. It says, as the sprees got closer together, the alarming physical and mental symptoms, the deepening pale of remorse, depression, and oh no, I can't read my own writing.
Doctor's handwriting.
Inferiority that settled down on our loved ones. These things terrified and distracted us. That piece stood out to me even more because I remember just being so incredibly preoccupied with you and questioning what the next moment was going to be like.
Like as you were at work, as we were separated?
Yeah,
or
as we were separated, even in the same household. If it was a weekend, let's say, and we're, busy doing tasks of some kind, and then coming together, like, even I didn't know what was our time together going to be like. Were you going to be yourself? Were you going to be angry? Were you going to be frustrated? Were you going to be silent?
Yeah. How about the excuses? Like leading up to the time before rehab, there were always, I always tried to convince via like some sort of motivation, or I would always come up with some excuse or reason as to why I had fallen into, a drinking cycle. What, as I would come to you and be like, I've got that resolve, I'm not going to drink. Like, what would you be thinking or feeling in hearing that?
A couple different things. One of them was, well, at least he's talking. At least he's not just silent.
Yeah.
The silence was almost harder sometimes than having you speak, although speaking was excuses, and excuses were essentially lies, and lies were breaking down our relationship. And so I don't think that necessarily was better per
Yeah.
se. But the silence was really hard.
Yeah.
And essentially, like what you have described it as is, in some ways, you felt like if you spoke, you were gonna say something that was out of context with the lie that you already had built up, and so your whole structure would come crumbling down
Yep.
if you said the wrong thing.
Can I jump in there?
Mhm.
Because that's actually something, a component of it I really have not thought about or remembered much since entering recovery. But you're absolutely right. One of the reasons I would be silent is so I would drink during the day, and then it's like, okay, I got to stop, pull it together by the time Alyssa's home, and just kind of gut through our couple hours together in the evening. And I would have memory lapses, like generally not full blackouts, but I wouldn't remember like fully what we talked about at dinner, or did I have a slip up? Did you catch on to anything? And so because of the fear of the unknown, it seemed like a bigger risk for me to open my mouth and start communicating out of fear of like, what if I said that last night and then all of a sudden Alyssa goes, Kyle, we already talked about this.
Which I'm sure happened.
It did. I guarantee, I know for a fact that it happened, because one of the things about my drinking is I was very experimental and I was pretty quick with a learning cycle. So if I made a mistake that opened myself up to criticisms, to questioning, to pressing about, were you actually drinking? I would avoid that in the future. So we had conversation before the day after drinking bout, where I exposed myself by repeating something I said the night before, or asking a question that you had already given a detailed response on. And so the easiest thing to do in those moments was to be silent. And on the topic of silence, should we take a break here?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's take a momentary break.
The sourdough needs some attention.
Okay.
Oh, how our lives have changed. Okay, we'll be back. If you are enjoying this episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, or comment on the episode. These seemingly small actions can have far-reaching impacts. With that, back to the episode, and thank you.
Are we staying on track with how you want it to be?
This is just loosey-goosey for form, so whatever.
I feel like your other guests, I feel a little pressure.
Why?
Like I don't know.
I don't know. Have you worked with Robert Downey Jr. before? Okay.
I haven't.
There's
I'm
no
trying
sense.
to say.
There's no sense in comparison.
Yeah, no, there's nothing.
It's you. It's progress.
It's just me.
It's progress.
I've worked with you.
Yeah. I did turn it to 68 degrees. So, in honor of
You're treating me
RDJ.
like Bobby, we'll call him.
Okay. All right. We're going to come back into the fold. I have no idea how I'm going to edit that, but we're going to go back to the book. So the chapter continues on. I'm skipping over quite a lot, but they basically lay out kind of the types of drinkers, which is a little bit not the most elegant way of putting it. Do you have
I actually have something to say about that. I read through, and obviously I looked at all of these different types of drinkers, and I think that I caught on to what type you think that you are. But could you summarize? Maybe could you summarize?
No,
okay.
I skimmed over that. I was like, I don't think we have anything to talk about here.
Well, essentially, it's just like progressively
it is
more intense.
It's sort of the steps to crossing the threshold with.
It's like someone who recognizes that they drink too much, and they're aware that they drink too much,
but they like it.
And socially, and they don't have a lot of consequences from it.
Correct.
The second one,
I wouldn't even go through all four. The far end of the spectrum is the point at which where the book recommends, like, you as a wife should leave
this person.
Not like divorce necessarily. You should physically remove yourself from the scenario. If you have children, take them out of the
you are
scenario.
in danger, get away.
Yeah.
Number 3 is like, this person needs to seek an intensive program. Number 2, to backtrack, because I like to be thorough.
We're covering them all.
Is someone who is essentially like crossed over into being an alcoholic and maybe recognizes that they truly have a problem. And
the progression gets worse
Yes.
with more denial, really,
Right.
is one of the
Right.
underlying
an
aspects.
ability to or desire to change.
Yes, and within the concept of this book and its objective, it becomes harder and harder to deal with someone who has that level of denial.
So what category do you think you fell into?
Landed at probably like
Yes.
the 3 range.
I was thinking 2 based upon the
Mm.
description of
Okay.
what 2 is, but then they call it seeking asylum.
Mhm.
I think that piece of it, obviously, with having gone to rehab, you essentially dipped your toes into type 3. But I
Yeah.
don't think that you were. I almost felt like type 3 was that they didn't quite know they needed to go to a rehab program, but maybe had been encouraged by others
Mhm.
and doctors and whatnot to go to a program. And I feel like you were willing to go and recognized that that was the step that needed to be taken. That was logically what needed to happen.
Yeah.
Versus I felt like a traditional type 3, how the book described it, would be like everyone else is telling this person that they need to go to rehab because rehab is actually what this person needs,
Mhm.
versus the person like willingly making that choice.
Well, then I would say it was only in the last few hours of my
Okay.
time that I
Okay.
dabbled into
Well,
them. I was so in
yeah.
denial. And
Mhm.
I did have medical professionals tell me, we went to a counselor
Mhm.
one time where I will never forget this. I was
This is in
actually
Minnesota?
I was
Mhm.
actually opening up to her and talking about just kind of, I had given up drinking at that time. I can't remember um which cycle this was of sobriety. And I was describing, like, I made a joke, what I thought was a joke, like, yeah, I'm sure eating a lot more sweets. And she just reflexively goes, well, that's pretty common for alcoholics. And that was the first time I had been called an alcoholic. And in my mind, I was like, screw this lady, I'm done with her. We're getting out of this.
Yeah.
And I worked us out of, because I think I did one-on-one with her and we did couples.
Mhm.
And I got myself out of that scenario specifically because of that comment. So I saw many kinds of medical professionals, and it would slip in there about like, it seems like you have a problem. And I would just stop. I would be in denial.
Mhm.
And
That counselor had mentioned to you, what if you just went to an AA
yes,
meeting?
that was the
Just
first time.
see
Yeah.
what maybe this isn't you,
Right.
but see what this is.
Yeah.
And see how these people view themselves.
Right.
And maybe it will resonate with you, maybe it will not.
Yeah.
And she was very gentle about it, in my opinion, but I'm sure to you felt like you were being directly attacked.
I felt
at
like
the
I was
moment.
being whipped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Aggressive.
It felt very aggressive, and
Yeah.
it would have saved 5+ years off of the hell that we lived through. But on that, I actually have a portion highlighted that I specifically wanted to talk about one of the most fearful moment of my life, and that was the moment in intake. So I'm going to go into the book. It's just a short section. After his next binge, ask him if he would really like to get over his drinking for good. Do not ask that he do it for you or anyone else. Just would he like to? And again, a short portion, but I have a burning question that I have not ever asked you before.
Did I write down the exact same phrase as you? Because if so, yes, I did. No, what is your burning question?
When we were in the intake room and they took my stuff away and the tech brought it to the check-in station, so it was just you and I, you turned to me and you basically said, Kyle, I know you love us, but you can't do this for us anymore. You have to figure out a reason to do it for yourself. What compelled you to say that? How did you figure out to say those exact words?
I think I feel like I had been doing enough of my own research that I had heard the turn of phrase before, or something along those lines. Why did I say it in that exact moment? It was truly just what was laid on my heart in that moment. I had seen you, and especially in having the, I guess, wool pulled from over my eyes, just days prior, I had seen how smart you were and how your ability to outsmart the
Manipulate.
system, manipulate the system,
Yep.
manipulate me, manipulate counselors. And I actually think I even brought that up to one of
You
the
did.
counselors
I
that
know.
I
Yeah.
spoke to. I said, my husband's incredibly smart. He's going to try to outsmart the system if he's not well-intentioned with this.
Yeah.
So I think that was a piece of it. I think another piece of it was that I knew you were scared, and I knew that a lot of your excuses you had made for not wanting to go to rehab had been for all of these external factors that
I couldn't leave
you
you.
couldn't leave me, you couldn't leave our oldest son. And so I think that those pieces, it was like, strip that away. You're here for you. If you're taking this on, you're going to commit to this time frame. You have to do this for you. And actually something that I noticed in the book that I feel like describes it well was just slightly after that reading. And it was a statement. I don't remember how it started, but it's wait until repeated stumbling convinces him he must ask. For the more you hurry him, the longer his recovery may be delayed. And so I was really concerned about if I pushed, which I had done in the past, in terms of trying to get you to make a change. If I pushed against that it wasn't going to stick. And if you did this for anyone but yourself, it was not going to stick for you. And so in that moment, I wanted to make it very clear that you stripped everything away but yourself.
Yeah. That was monumental for me. I mean, that truly was a moment that changed my life, and words that changed my life. And so, before moving on, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I think, in terms of a message for loved ones of addicts, I would say, in addition to that, one of the things that you did, not only through words, but most importantly with your actions, was when I left rehab, you pushed and supported me to ensure that recovery and figuring out recovery was allowed to be the top priority. And what I mean by that, and honestly, it continues today. It looks different at year 3 than it does on day 30. There were moments early in recovery where you would just straight up say, Kyle, get to a meeting. We were looking, honestly, in the early days at hitting a certain number of meetings per day, at me shopping, quote unquote, shopping the meeting scene around here in Boise to figure out like which ones worked with my schedule. And you were always accommodating early at like, doesn't matter the time of day, doesn't matter how far away it is, go to it, check it out. If it works, we're going to figure out how to make it work. Today it looks different just from the standpoint of like, you might simply check in and be like, hey, how long has it been since you've been to an AA meeting? Like, have you done, it's more of a conversation. And
I think that I also tried to look at like, where's your mood at? Where are you emotionally?
Exactly.
And do you need that check-in?
Yep.
I mean, you're still hitting meetings nearly every week. I would say you're kind of at a once a week cadence right now. However, if I am noticing anything with your mood, I know that hitting a meeting is going to be the right move for you.
Yep.
And I mean, I feel like the way that this goes in a lot of different facets of life, typically, if you're going to go to that meeting, you're going to hit on a theme. You're like, wow, this actually really resonated with me. And I'm so glad that I was there. And whether that's that they cast a wide enough net that you're always being covered, or just, right place at the right time. You've had some pretty incredible feedback or response once you get home.
And our conversation, our relationship has changed. This has not been a just me thing. There have been changes in you as an individual. There's been work that you've been forced to do, and there's been work that we've been forced to do as a couple, and you're like leading in perfectly to these transitions. So with that, we'll go back to the book, and again, this is skipping quite a bit of content where they kind of dive into each of the four types of drinkers, and now we're going to get into like, okay, you seemingly found a solution. Now what? It's not all roses. And so into the book. If you and your husband find a solution for the pressing problem of drink, you are, of course, going to be very happy. But all problems will not be solved at once. Seed has started to sprout in a new soil, but growth has only begun. In spite of your newfound happiness, there will be ups and downs. Many of the old problems will still be with you. This is as it should be. And I'm going to come out of the book. And again, one of the things that I say to people really early in recovery is just be prepared that the relationships are actually going to be the hardest thing about maintaining recovery. I see people who come out and the first sign of hardship where, a loved one gets upset with them for something that has nothing to do with like drinking, something seemingly mundane. And all of a sudden there's a conflict in the relationship and that person goes off and drinks. I feel like we got, oh man, our first like 90, we've mourned over this in some regard, just that time between me leaving rehab and finding out about Lucy's health concerns. It was just shy of 2 months. And it was sort of this perfect time period, seemingly, where it was like floating on a cloud for us.
It was that pink cloud effect, right?
Exactly. But, it's like then we faced hardship. And I think one of the things early on is like we were trying to figure out how to communicate and how things are shifting with us. And I just, what from your perspective, like where was your mindset at as my final days at rehab were coming to close and I was going to be folding back into the family? Like, were you prepared at all for like changes that you would have to make yourself, or where was your head at when it came to like Kyle's coming home tomorrow?
It was a mixed bag of emotions. So we had the 28 days at rehab. In that time, I had a lot of assistance from people, which was wonderful. I had found out that I was pregnant with our daughter, and you knew, but nobody else knew. And so there was like this new like secret, I guess you could say, for a short bit that we had. And I was nervous. I don't know how else to describe it other than nerves. Like, what does this look like?
Yeah.
What is he going to look like when he gets back here? Like, I had seen the changes internally through our visiting hours, but I didn't know what is it going to be like. There's a lot. I feel like the biggest things for me were the pieces I hadn't had the opportunity to work on yet, which were what triggers are going to come up for me. And so that was a big piece of it. What is your schedule going to look like? Nothing's changed on my side of things in terms of what my schedule looks like. So how do I have, as I mentioned earlier, how do I have that peace with you outside the walls of rehab? You could have left at any time from rehab. There was nothing that said that you had to stay there. Obviously, you chose to do it. And again, you chose to make this life-altering change for yourself, which was amazing. But as we've discussed, sometimes the loved ones feel better when their loved one is detained in some capacity. They're under supervision in some capacity. And I mean, even to this day, when we're not together, there is a level of control that I have to release and be okay with knowing, like, and trusting that you're going to act the way that you should.
Yep.
And that you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to support that you're going to continue acting the way that you expect.
Yeah.
What are you smiling about?
I held something back from you. I just realized I have
Oh.
not told you about something that happened yesterday.
Oh, what's that?
Or I'm sorry, Friday
Okay.
night. So I was out with three other friends, right?
Okay.
We hike 4 miles, 2,100 feet in elevation gain. A very, very big afternoon.
Yes.
To get up there. And I peeled off at one point. We get to a spot where we're like, okay, I think we're going to make camp here. And I peeled off to go sort of out to a point to overlook this just gigantic scene out in the mountains. Just kind of check it out for the morning for us. And I kid you not, all the way back there where we were, 4 unopened Keystone lights.
What?
I kid you not. And
someone's pack was just a little too heavy and they decided not to take them home?
Seriously. It's so
saving them for later?
Yeah. It doesn't matter why it was out there. We think we kind of figured it out.
Okay.
But it just like, it truly spoke to me, these unanticipated moments, especially with alcohol, where it's this legal and widely accepted thing, literally out in the wilderness, and you get slammed with an opportunity. There were 4 beers. There were 4 of us.
Yeah.
And I just took a picture of it. I walked back to the guys. I was like, you guys will never believe what I just found. None of them have any issues with alcoholism. And we were just we were floored by it. And I mean, those questions, those fears that you had early on about what would happen when things get hard or you get hit, especially for me, because I would get so thrown by if something went against my plan, if something unanticipated came up, that's when I would fall apart.
We have to take another sourdough break. I'm so sorry to say.
All right, good.
The beers in the wilderness.
We were just talking about those like random moments.
Did you guys get into like Satan tempting Jesus in the wilderness? Because it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, that's not even close.
Well, what I'll say, what I thought of while on my sourdough break, was that these are the moments where I have really had to rebuild my trust, especially in the fact that you're with people that that I don't know.
Right.
And I don't know what they're who are they looking out for? Are they looking out for you? Are they looking out for themselves? Backpacking is a time where people brings a little something to drink at the end of the night. And like it's something we used to do when we would go camping. And so that thought is always in my head of like, what temptation is Kyle being presented?
Yeah.
And whether or not you're actually going to take it on is obviously up to you. And that's where the piece of trust comes in. Yeah. So what are you smirking about?
You're nailing this. Okay. Another transition, just like the editing will be fun with these sourdough breaks. But transitioning to kind of the last section, again, in finding your loved one in recovery, you as the loved one also have some work to do yourself. And so to the book, your husband knows he owes you more than sobriety. He wants to make good, yet you must not expect too much. His way of thinking and doing are the habits of years. Patience, tolerance, understanding, and love are the watchwords. Show him these things in yourself, and they will be reflected back to you from him. Live and let live is the rule. If you both show a willingness to remedy your own defects, there will be little need to criticize each other. It is probably true that you and your husband have been living too much alone, for drinking many times isolates the wife of the alcoholic. Therefore, you probably need fresh interests and a great cause to live for, as much as your husband. You, as well as your husband, ought to think of what you can put into life, instead of how much you can take out of it. Inevitably, your lives will be fuller for doing so. You will lose the old life to find one much better. And kind of the arc of that I wanted to discuss is like, what have you felt like you have been able to work on yourself, either in terms of, defects, and maybe that might seem too harsh of a word. That's fine. But just kind of like areas of your life that you can improve upon, new interests that you can go and pursue. Like, how has that changed for you as an individual, and how has that kind of helped us grow together?
Um, well, I think that the biggest thing that I have to recognize in this situation was that while you were the drinker, I was the enabler.
Hmm.
And that was never a phrase that I was comfortable with when it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty understandable that most people
Yeah.
probably are like, no, I'm not the enabler.
Yeah.
I'm the bystander.
Yeah.
And so having to reconcile with that and realize that there were things that I could work on, and there were pieces where I had to step up to such a degree that I had a hard time backing off in some regard. And so I think that that was a piece that I've had to really relearn and help us get back into balance and, not treat you like you were the inferior spouse.
Like I owed you something.
Yeah,
I
like you
never
owed me
felt that.
something.
Yeah.
Um, what am I doing that could be triggering to Kyle to have old habits come back? That was a question I definitely had to ask myself as well. And really just finding my own voice and finding my own way
Mm-hmm.
was something that I did have to look at. And it wasn't like some big thing had happened to me that was this turning point necessarily. It was like a slow, gradual change that had happened over time that I had to work at coming out of. And then, just as we were starting to get to that point, we had a whole new devastating piece of our life come into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's still an ongoing thing.
It is.
It's still something that I'm working on to this
Mm-hmm.
day, is finding me
Mm-hmm.
again in our relationship, in our changing family dynamics, in motherhood,
Mm-hmm.
in spousehood.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a word,
In
but
marriage.
marriage. So I think that it's an ongoing and ever-changing thing for us.
Yeah. And I can say it's been just the greatest honor to travel the road together.
Mm-hmm.
It was after losing Lucy that you and I sat down,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually spoke the words out loud and asked the question to each other, do we want to stay together through
Mm-hmm.
this? And I think that goes unspoken
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, and it shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And just because that is a uncomfortable or difficult question, I think it is incredible that we face that
Mm-hmm.
after such a trial and
Mm-hmm.
an ongoing trial, and just that recommitment to each
Mm-hmm.
other, and knowing that it doesn't matter what happens, we will work together through it.
Mm-hmm.
There will be ups and downs. Our ups and downs are going to be variable even against each other. But that commitment to just do it together, there was,
Mm-hmm.
it's, I'm humbled. I think it was you that asked it, and it was needed in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that applies to, relationships after recovery as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, we didn't do this alone. We definitely
no,
sought
not at all.
counsel
Yep.
and have.
But that's part of it, right?
Right.
Exactly. We walk that together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think, kind of before closing this out, circling all the way back, actually, I think I would honestly call it the most incredible moment for me from our 3-year, just a few days ago, was actually seeing and witnessing something that happened in your day. And it was just so amazing for me to see. And that was that you had a friend over.
Right.
And it sounds so trivial.
Small.
It sounds so
Well, and that was a plan. That wasn't even our original plan.
Exactly.
We were going to go out to lunch.
Yep.
We were going to go do something completely different. It was like, let's pivot this plan.
Yep.
We've got little kids and they need to
And
move around, not sit in their strollers.
And honestly, that visit was in a big way why we couldn't sit down and record this podcast that day. But as it was happening, I was like, I would not trade this. You know, my planner, like I had a plan in place and I was actively witnessing that fall apart in front of me. And it was like, you know what? That it doesn't matter. This is so cool. This is just those moments that I have desired to see for you in your life, because I do know how my struggle had stripped that ability away in a very, very real way. And so it was amazing to see. And I kind of stayed out of the way, but it was so cool to walk through, participate in a little bit of conversation and just see that side of you. So yeah, it was.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So after I read through the chapter, as I was reading through the chapter, there was a statement that I highlighted in the chapter that I wanted to make sure got brought up during the podcast.
Okay.
Did you reread through the chapter after?
I did. I saw a few of what I thought were your notes.
There's one that's like got a couple asterisks around it. And so I'm going to read it to you. It's a very short one-line statement.
Okay.
But maybe you have it written down too.
Go for it.
I'll just go for it. Okay. It's very short, but it was a statement that really stood out to me. And is how I would describe you now. Today, most of our men are better husbands and fathers than ever before. That's it. Simple as that. Again, a statement written almost 100 years ago that can be applied to any age. And 100% where we're at.
I agree.
Would I trade this life for any other life? No. You're 100% a better, not 100% better. Without a doubt, you are a better husband and father than you were prior to entering active recovery. And for that, I am eternally grateful.
Well, and thank you for everything you did to get us there, everything you did in the early days, and our continued learning and progression and togetherness. So
love you.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending your time here. If this conversation was helpful, you can follow More Than Capable wherever you listen to podcasts. I also share longer form writing on the More Than Capable Substack, exploring these ideas in further depth. You can follow the Substack by going to morethancapable.life. That's morethancapable.life. If this conversation mattered to you, pass it on. That's how this community grows. Until next time, keep showing up